voice as part of the Fans First Sports Network. I am your host, Brett Rutherford, joined as always by my good friend and co host, Darby Robinson. We are live on youtube.com/ at raise your voice and also available wherever you get your podcasts. And if you love what we do here on Raise Your Voice and you really want to say thank you, head on over to patreon.com/ raise your voice where you can become a member for as little as $1 a month. Darby, we've waited a couple of weeks to hop back on the pod, maybe see how things were going for this team, and it's been unfortunately more of the same in the last couple of weeks. It's like one step forward, two steps back, and this Yankees series has felt like kind of the I shouldn't say the last chance because you're not out of it. Although it looks like Bob Seymour, did he just hit a home run?
Did he?
Yay, Bob Seymour with his first big league homer. And
Yeah, there you
if you're
go.
watching on
Second
YouTube,
hit.
it's going to cut into my intro, but we've got the 3D game day stream on here, which allows us to follow the game without infringing on Major League Baseball copyright. And we just got witness Bob Seymour's first big league home run in like this weird 3D, I don't know,
Yeah.
claymation looking stream.
Enjoy it. Enjoy it while we have it before ESPN takes it away from us.
Yeah, exactly, and puts it behind their direct to consumer paywall.
Yeah.
Um, but like I was saying, it's been a lot of one step forward, two steps back for this team. It felt like this Yankee series was. If you were going to jump back into things, taking two at
hmm
home against the Yankees in Steinbrenner
the
Stadium.
biggest problem is the at home
Yeah,
heavy quotation marks. Yeah,
and
yeah.
you get absolutely clobbered in probably like the most demoralizing game of the season yesterday. And
9 home runs.
yeah, including
Nine.
three back to back to back in the first inning against Shane Baz. And then today,
Truly
it's not
incredible.
over yet. Bob Seymour just made it a 3-1 game, but um, Cam Schlittler did take a perfect game. Was it through 6 innings?
Through six.
Yeah, it looked really
And then
sharp.
Chandler in the seventh ended
And
it.
you're not out of it, but still have some ground to catch up. And Darby, like, I don't know, it just feels very bleh right now. The guys are hurt. I mean, Hassan Kim was scratched today. We've got Tristan
hmm
Gray playing shortstop. I'm happy for Bob Seymour playing. Jonathan Aranda doesn't seem close to being back. Other guys are hurt. It just feels like we've reached that bleh point of the season where there's not a whole lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I think this has been a tough year because it's such a big step down from last year. Like last year, they had a really bad first half where they had like all of these guys that you are counting on kind of not perform. And then you kind of are like, well, the offense isn't performing, which sucks because the pitching is injured and they didn't really have much in the way of pitching to be able to kind of compete. This year though, you really had like, all the pieces pitching wise. You really thought you were going to have a better thing. Obviously, Shane McClanahan going down in spring
Mm-hmm.
after looking pretty good early, going down with the nerve injury that has ended his season, is kind of completely derailed his comeback. That like really hurt. And then you just had like a lot of, step down performances. And like for a lot of reasons, I would say like this year has been way more disappointing than last year because there's also just been like less to root for. Like this has like been a worse team to watch post trade deadline this year than they were last year. Like they were much more competitive last year post trade deadline. They actually had a lot more life. So that's like I think probably the hardest thing to take because you're like, well, wait, like that was a team that sold heavy at the deadline, and this year's team like kind of bought a little bit
Right,
and
kind of like the selling off, even though you didn't get a whole lot of uh,
present value.
immediate
Yeah.
pieces, it still felt like a way to position yourself to be successful in 2026, or sorry, in 2025, in this year.
hmm
Even though some of it was clearly like payroll based, I think Eric Neander like has come out and said as much. Like they ran up to it. It was a team high payroll going into 2024. The team was not as good as they expected, and so they had to find a way to manage that. And so some of those moves I think were to shed some payroll, but I think some of it was very like a lot of it was mainly baseball driven. And you saw the acquisitions of like Christopher Morel and the bullpen arms that they got, like Hunter Biggie, and replenished a farm system that had a lot of guys come up and graduate over the last few years, and a lot of them had become everyday players for you. We talk about Josh Lowe and Taj Bradley and Shane Baz and guys that were your top 100 prospects that are now big leaguers. So you did kind of need to replenish the cabinet a little bit, and it seems like on both ends, they've taken a step back this year. The Rays, there's a lot less Rays in the top 100 prospects, no matter where you look. The Rays are still down in the standings, and while there's still a lot about this organization to look forward to in the future, it is kind of a spot that, like, my feelings when I'm looking at roster resource and I'm scrolling down, like, I don't know if I felt this way in quite some time, in like almost 10 years, about this team and the direction they were headed in. And I'm hoping that feeling is temporary, but we'll see. Time will tell.
And it could, and here's the thing, and it could be right. Like this does feel like a team that's like so little of talent that you're just basically like there's no hope in the present, the future. Like it's like you're gonna need to see another big sell off. Like they just did a big trade off. They need to do like another big trade off, a couple years of tanking, and then like in 5 to 6, 7 years, maybe they're like back to that. But that's not how baseball works, right? Like baseball works is like you're like completely bereft, nothing in the cupboard, terrible team, and then like in a year you're like, oh, this is like the best team in base. Like look at okay, first of all, let's look at the National League's best team, the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yeah.
That is not a team that has like been like we have just been tanking and doing this. They've been, again, basically the Rays. Sorry, Ken Rosenthal. That they're like the third most analytically driven team in all of baseball. That lineup, you look through that lineup, you're like, okay, this isn't a lineup that's like it's not the Dodgers, right? This isn't like a team that has. It's not the Dodgers. It's not the Orioles, or it's not the prime Astros, where it's like, okay, the Astros and the Orioles, they tanked for 5, 6 years, built up that roster, and now they have this cost controlled core. And it's not the Dodgers who have basically assembled like a god squad. That's a team that like took advantage of Isaac Collins being cut by the Colorado Rockies. It took advantage of trading for kind of failed former first rounders, or kind of guys that are not like that didn't like pop. Guys that weren't on top 100s, or were, and then they kind of slid down. So the Rays, when you look at their like pipeline or whatnot, yeah, it would be nicer to have like some of those guys that are like more studs at the top of the lists, like more can't miss guys. A lot of those guys were there, and then they had kind of step back years, and then like somebody like Carson Williams, he dropped from being a top 10 prospect down to like the mid 40s. He's like still a top 50 guy, but like dropped way down, mostly because he didn't advance. He's still had another 2020 season. He did it. He's doing it in AAA. It's just he didn't improve as big as people were looking for.
And he had a rough first half. I don't think my opinions have changed about Carson Williams a whole lot as a prospect this year. I had worries about I had less optimism than people did about his bat, and I think his performance the last 2 months has kind of proved me wrong in that, and I hope that's just a step in the right direction for his development. But there is a lot of swing and miss in his game. But there's also very good shortstop defense, like potential Gold Glove winning defense. And with some of these prospects, it's like, okay, Carson Williams would be a really good young piece to add to an already like thriving team.
Right.
Is he like a franchise saving shortstop? I don't think so. Like I don't think he's that type of player. He might have some really good seasons in his prime, but he's not not an immediate all-star.
Right.
And it's going to take some time, I think, for him at the big league level. So it's like I'm looking at this list of up and coming players, and there's a lot of interesting pieces. And other than Williams, there are other guys who have had disappointing seasons whose stock have dropped for just poor performance, injury, which does hurt development. It does just feel like it doesn't feel like bad process. Like we know, like some of these prospects that we've loved the last couple of years. There was reasons that the Rays got them. There's reasons that we liked them, and for one reason or another, things haven't worked out. Uh, so that's where my head's at right now. Where I don't want to get stuck in like be 500 purgatory, right?
Hmm.
I think we talked about this before last season that okay, if things like the Rays win total was like 84 and a half and or it was 81 and a half last year. And we kind of scoffed at that a little bit and the Rays go 80 and 82 and we kind of talked about how terrible it can be to be a 500 team where you're kind of just like stuck in neutral.
Hmm.
Um and maybe it's because we've been spoiled for a few years as Rays fans and man, I mean, Pirates would love to be 500. I'm sure. Like, are they
Rockies.
anywhere near 500? No, they're 20 games
No,
under.
they are
Yeah, the
very much not. Yeah.
Rockies, one of the worst teams of all time. The A's, who even they have an interesting, young core of players, and they might be on the way up again. Nowhere near 500. And the Rays for the
Mhm.
last 2 years, I think, are like five games under 500 from the last season and this season combined. So it's just my fear right now. Where like that's why I'm watching these games and I'm watching this group of players, and I'm worried that this is going to take. Like it's hard to even do a sell off, right? Because like, what are you selling?
Mhm. Well, I think that's the thing though, but I think this is the hard part is that the Rays don't need to do a big sell off and they're not going to tank. That's just not the way they're built to ever do that. And so as a result, you are kind of stuck in this like it does suck and you don't know if it like when they're going to come out of it. The biggest issue is going to be that they're going to probably next year have a core very similar and then need to like kind of figure that out as they go. Um, but like I think the Brewers are the team to kind of look at because like that's the team that similar to the Rays is kind of built as a team that and like what the Rays could also be potentially with new ownership is you're not going to see them jump up to being the team that's like signing Kyle Tucker to a 15-year $500 million deal, which with his current injuries and stuff like maybe you don't want to do that anyway. um, but you're a team that can maybe raise your payroll a bit but not like raise it into the stratosphere, still on the lower end, which means maybe you keep a guy a little longer. Maybe you keep Yandy Diaz and Brandon Lau like a couple more years, but you don't keep everybody. You make some tough decisions. You trade Devin Williams and you trade, Josh Hader, right? And so like maybe this offseason you do see some trades like that. This team still has like a core of like Jonathan Aranda,
Yeah,
Junior
Junior Caminero.
Caminero, and you have Yandy Diaz and Brandon Lau as veterans that you can come bring back for not that expensive. And those are four really good hitters. The problem with the Rays this year, and we're going to talk about pitching more in depth because I think
Yeah,
that's like the biggest problem because they're built on run prevention and their pitching as well as their circumstances both kind of hurt that. But the offense still needs to improve. And this is the big key, right? So those four guys that I mentioned, Brandon Lau, Yandy Diaz, Jonathan Aranda, Junior Caminero, on the season, we're looking at 121 WRC plus for Brandon Lau, 121 WRC plus for Yandy Diaz, 121 WRC plus for Junior Caminero, 143 for Jonathan Aranda. So 21% above average to 41% above average. All four of those guys absolutely did their job. The next highest guys on this list are all below 100. They're all below average. Caballero got so this is with guys that had at least 100 plate appearances with the team. Jose Caballero 84, Jake Mangum 84, Danny Jansen 98, Curtis Mead 87, Cameron Misner 71, Chandler Simpson 93, so like a little bit better. Walls 66, Josh
yeah.
Lowe 84, Christopher Morel 84. Um, the fact that like Josh Lowe and Christopher Morel are basically the same. One person like everybody wants to like DFA. Christopher Morel also has 9 home runs. Josh Lowe only has 7. So like that's a big problem right there. But that's the thing, right? When you look at the Brewers, you look at a team and then it's like, okay, how are they doing this? You look through the lineup, you're not looking at those names and going, wow, this lineup is stacked, right? Like you have like, oh, William Contreras, he's really good. He's actually kind of having like an okay year. He's kind of having a little down year. Yelich, you're like, I remember him, and he's doing fine. He's not amazing, but he's doing pretty good. It's just a lot of guys contributing. And we sort of talked about this early in the season and in June. It was that you have a lineup deep enough to go 9 guys. Those 4 at the top are great, but you need the rest of the guys to be like competitive, to turn the lineup over, to get an extra hit that now suddenly Yandy Diaz is coming back up and there's 2 guys on for him to take care of, and not just you're having. But right now during the July and August, it's been just those 4 guys, and in August we have had no Jonathan Aranda, so you're down to just 3 guys, and that's it. And so this is the biggest problem, is you just need to have you're not trying to find core pieces to win. You're not trying to replace, you're not trying to find another Junior Caminero. You're not trying to find like Jonathan Aranda to break out. What you are needing is just guys that can give you 90 plus WRC plus. Have the rest of the lineup be that, and suddenly now you're not having these guys that are such like in such steep slumps all over the place. You're having people that can keep the lineup going. And that's how you can build an offense that can be a top 10 offense.
And we've
not
seen that
through just
past,
having that.
But what we've seen, I think that's different this year. If I'm trying to come up with a theory that's other than the other, the bottom 9 position play, you got your core 4, but then the bottom 9 position players just aren't, playing well. I mean, there's injuries. You've had like Josh Lowe and Ha-Seong Kim, and now Taylor Walls and Johnny DeLuca and Richie Palacios, like all of the key role players. Although you had higher expectations for Lowe and honestly probably for Morel coming into the season, you were hoping that they weren't role players, that they were everyday players. And then but they've all dealt with serious injuries, and then when they have played, it hasn't been good. But we've also seen, and I've pointed it out, we've talked about it in the show, the way Kevin Cash is managing this year and the way he's writing his lineups is notably different than the last 5 or 6 years. There is more consistency in the lineup and who's playing every day. And it's changed a little bit now, just I think more out of necessity, with more guys on the IL, more position players on the IL than we had in the first half. But the Rays, when they were on their postseason run, 5 years, it felt like they played the matchups, and it wasn't just lefty righty platoons. They knew how to put their role players in positions to succeed. It's why what was Brett Phillips' like best offensive season, with like a 120 WRC plus, and he had a ton of homers. And it's like Brett Phillips, who you watched him the very next year, and he was like the worst hitter in all of baseball.
Yeah.
I just, was that pure luck to do that for 5? I don't think it was pure luck. Like where were the Rays finding success in the scouting department to like just knowing when to play guys against certain pitchers that maybe they're not doing that as much? In that,
it's hard
like
to
Christopher
say.
Morel, they don't know when to play Christopher Morel. Occam's razor, like Chris Morel might just be bad. Like sometimes the simplest answer is the right one. But
I also just think that it's very, very tough for a guy who has like, it doesn't, his swing is really bad. His swing is broken. But the playing time consistency is terrible. Like it has been just left-handed like specialist, and he's never hit lefties well. Like, and I agree. Like looking at the data, like
have him? Why did we get him?
Well, that's the other confusing part. I think there's certain things, like when they've traded for guys like Brett Phillips, there's a very specific role and like that they're fitting. And like right now, they really haven't been doing that. I do think there's like certain things where you're just like, just just hoping to kind of move things along. So I don't know. I think the offense, I think this is a team, the Rays, seemingly so far out of it, so far from contention, that I again would not be shocked if like one off season with the most like baffling moves that you're like, this doesn't make any sense, this shouldn't work, and then they're like right back there, like totally fine, top 10 offense. And it just means like, just like, you gotta get better. I mean, they had a lot of bad injuries, like they've had some bad stuff, but like Josh Lowe and Christopher Morel just giving you nothing is, that's rough. Like that's rough. Jake Mangum's been a fine story, but he's also just not that good.
Right.
Like there is just not enough like good. Johnny DeLuca has actually had a pretty solid season, but he just kept getting hurt. Hassan Kim never really got off the ground because of all the injuries. So
Yeah.
I think there's like a
I
lot
wanna
of things where it's like
flip the
these should be the
script.
guys.
I kind of want to flip our agenda around. We're going to talk about starting pitching and the struggles of the rotation. But now that we're kind of in roster construction and looking at 2026, I mean, so I like you can look at like I think when we look back on this season and we think about like the biggest disappointments, it's going to be Morel and Josh Lowe. There's going to be some pitching ones in there, but like those two guys, I was expecting like if you had told me okay before anyone got hurt coming into 2025 that Kevin Cash was going to like not platoon anyone and just play a straight lineup, but that lineup was going to be Danny Jansen behind the plate, Jonathan Ronda at first, Brandon Lau at second, Walls at short until it was Kim, Caminero at third, and then the outfield left to right being Christopher Morel, Johnny DeLuca, Josh Lowe. I would have been like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like that is a good balanced lineup that you can play just about every day. And
Yeah.
yep, maybe Curtis Mead spells Jonathan Aranda or Brandon Lau against the lefty. Maybe someone like Richie Palacios gets mixed in to give people off days. Like that would make some sense. But like the truth is, we had a lot of those guys. Josh Lowe was hurt for a long time. Chris Morel's been healthy the whole season. It doesn't look like it because he never plays. Um, and to see like Kevin Cash like still run out some of these guys over players that I thought would get more of a run this season
Mm-hmm.
has been pretty shocking. So how do you fix that? How do you? I mean, we sure there's trades, and I'm sure they'll make trades. Sure, there's an interesting free agent you bring in, and maybe with new ownership, their approach to free agency changes slightly. Who knows? But I want to talk about pieces that may or may not be in the minor leagues that could contribute um, next season. Let's start. Let's start with kind of a complicated one. He's up already. Bob Seymour just hit his first major league home run. I have had the absolute joy and pleasure of watching him the last 2 years in Durham. Just hit tons of dingers and
Mm-hmm.
be like a complete fan favorite. I was sitting right behind home plate when he had his 3 home run night the other night, and just incredible. I mean, power to all fields. Really fun loving guy. I've always said like people see the clips, and actually, FanDuel Sports in Florida has been showing some Bulls games. So I've had people ask me like, man, with Bob Seymour, like he doesn't show up on prospect lists.
Mm-hmm.
What's his deal? Like he hits a ton of home runs, and I've always been a little skeptical about his future as a major league player. I said he'll get a shot, and he's getting a shot, and hopefully he gets extended run, whether it be with the Rays or someone else. But there's a lot of swing and miss. He can only play first
Mm-hmm.
base. That's a really hard profile to make it work. Like you have to really click at the plate or get better in other areas. So I don't know if Seymour is like a guy that you pencil in for the next 5 years at first base. I don't think he's that type of player, but maybe he is, and that's why you give him a shot, like they have been. Do you think Bob Seymour plays
Wow.
into the Rays 2026 picture more than just an injury replacement?
I'll say no. I'll say no. Because the biggest reason for that is just, I think we've already seen it so far. And
Big double, Hunter Fiducia, tie game.
yeah, tie game. Look at
Look at
that.
that, Hunter
Almost
Fiducia.
just narrowly missed a home run. Again, the only team that can't hit home runs in the Stein is the Rays. They can't get it over the park here. The only offense that the Yankees have scored is on home runs, and the Rays are just keeping it in the park. But nice double, 2 out, 2 strike. That's pretty good. I don't really see it, and I think here's the thing with Bob Seymour, and I think it's been very good to have him come up. I've really enjoyed, like, I'm glad he got his like, cup of coffee with us, and I think he should get this little run here to see, like, what do you have, right, with this profile, like what do you have. I
And
do
he's
think
not
the
going
biggest
anywhere until Aranda is back, and it sounds like Aranda is nowhere near being
right,
back.
yeah, and I think this is just like the he's going to get a nice little extended run, and he's deserved it, right? When you perform that much at a certain point, whether you believe it or not, you deserve to be able to, like, get that shot, and I think that's what baseball is all about. Same thing with Jake Mangum, right? Like, injuries come about, he works hard, he gets up there, and it's like, yeah, you deserve to, like, I believe in Jake Mangum long term? Probably not, no, but, like, it's a good story. It's like, I want to see these guys actually, like, perform. This is like, that's good. The thing with Bob Seymour, though, is I think getting to see this, though, is really important, because I think a lot of people sort of saw this, and it's a good lesson to have. That I think people see this as, like, this is our opportunity to, like, this will fix the offense, right? You have this guy that's hitting all these bombs. Why isn't he on the team? And the reason it is that, like, you've seen it, he's been pretty overmatched by everybody. Like, he
Swings a
got his dinger
lot.
today, but he has been completely, like, overpowered by a lot of guys. And, like, that is the nature of it. The leap from AAA to the show is massive. And this is also the reason why, with, like, Carson Williams, like, yeah, if you're K'ing 30% of the time in Durham, you're probably going to have a hard time making contact in the show. It's just the way it goes, because those guys are way better. They don't make mistakes. There's very few. Um, so yeah, I don't think Bob Seymour is somebody that's, like, I think you pencil in long term. I think this is the time of year, though, that it's nice to see these long, like, extended auditions. And if it's not for the Rays, maybe you do trade him in, like, a part of a package that's, like, for something small. But yeah, I think going into next year, I think the issue is stuff like Bob Seymour's, Jake Mangum's. Like, these are guys that you don't want to have to count on to be, like, players that are playing consistent baseball for you. Like, they're fun stories. They're not guys that you want to see, like, honestly being a key part of this team. Right now, Bob Seymour's batting at the bottom of the lineup. That's pretty good. He's gonna come up, I think, in the bottom of the 10th with Mangum on at second. Like, that's perfect. Maybe he'll, like, hit a walk-off bomb here. Uh, he's more in the Dan Johnson mold. Like, if he can get really good and do something, he maybe can be the Dan Johnson role. Like, he comes up and does something fun, but he's not the guy that you really pencil in. So I don't see him as still a long term. I have not. There's been nothing so far that I've seen that, like, refutes that to me.
Yeah.
Uh,
And you don't have to do anything with him next year. I mean, he's got options.
yeah,
You
it's
have to
great depth to have,
right. You have to
like a
decide if it's
bat
worth a
all.
40-man roster spot, and I imagine they'll look at that this offseason. There might be a team, maybe with more of an opening, uh, like for a left-handed hitting first baseman that says, you know what, we need him, and we need him to play in the big leagues, and maybe there's a trade to be had. Um, but he's got options. You can keep him in Durham. I think there's value in that. If you
Mhm.
lose Aranda or Yandy or like Brandon Lau, even just to give you another like left-handed power bat in the lineup as someone goes down. Um, but yeah, very fun player, and I'm
It's a
rooting
good
for him.
story too.
So
Yeah, it is a good story too.
yeah,
So yeah, I think when you're looking at this team, and I'm looking at, like, Durham, and I'm looking ahead to, like, September with, like, call ups, I think there's really two guys that I think are on the position side as people that I think really do have a chance, like, next year, to potentially make the squad, make the team, or at least, like, have, like, a big time role.
right.
And those are going to be Trey Morgan
Mm,
and Carson Williams.
yeah, I
And
was
so, like,
really
I would like to
hoping.
see those guys have a chance to, like, play this year, at least get that kind of like Caminero style cup of coffee where you're like, this guy could be something. So let's give him a little extended run. Like, I'd really like to see some Trey Morgan who brings a more contact approach, less swing and miss. Uh, very good glove, obviously better defensively at first, but like can play corner
I think he
outfield.
could play corner outfield. I think he
Yeah,
could
he
play
seems
left.
like he's been pretty well out there. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you've gotten to watch a little bit of him.
I don't think he'll be like very good out there, but like, and that is something that the Rays need to consider. Like, okay, how do we prevent more runs or give up less runs? Um, but yes, I would love to see Morgan. I was really hoping we got to see Carson Williams this past weekend, and Seymour kind of got that call instead of him. Different positions, but you know, with Taylor Walls going on the IL and your shortstops being Kim and then Gray being his immediate understudy, and if Kim needs to go on the IL, if they call up Coco Montez, man, that would break my heart.
That
that
would be tough.
that would
That would be
be
tough.
like you're kind of out of it. This would be the time to give Williams the run. If you're running
Mhm.
out Tristan Gray and Coco Montez at short, man, let's pack it up for the season.
I mean,
Um,
and that's not, and not just like pack it up. It's just
what are
like
we doing here?
what are we doing here?
Yeah,
Yeah, like this isn't even like, it's not even like saving money
we're
for next
wasting
year,
everyone's
right?
time.
And I think the other thing too is like Carson Williams' season ends in like 10 days anyway.
No,
So
they play into
they do
September.
have the
They
postseason.
play
Yeah.
they're not going to be in the postseason, but they play pretty long now. I think they've got another three weeks to a month. So um,
Interesting. I'm just so accustomed to like
yeah,
September just rolling around, and
I know
I
we've
guess
got
now it is just only a
tickets.
couple players.
I know we've got tickets into September. I haven't looked. I should know this off the top of my head, but Carson Williams, yeah, I think let's talk about him a little bit. I think his role is largely dependent. Okay, it goes till September 20th, so they've got a month
Oh yeah.
left.
Okay, a lot of time. Okay.
Um, I think his role, he is a guy that we will see him. I'm willing to bet we see him at some point this season. Uh, I'm also willing to bet that he does not start the year on the opening day roster for 2026, and he's back in
Mhm.
AAA. This is largely dependent on what happens with Hassan Kim and his player
Yep.
option. You also have an option, a club option for I think Stanton. Did he just homer? It's an in play runs,
That pitch
inside
location
fastball.
looks
Yep,
really easy. Yeah.
yep.
I don't think I've ever seen Stanton miss a pitch
I,
like there.
yeah, that an in play runs on Stanton there. You know, it wasn't an opposite field single.
Yeah. Infield at Jake Mangum chopper.
Yeah.
No, you
You,
can't throw a pitch
if we're
right
not
there.
laughing
That's
at this
too easy.
point, we'd be crying. So we got to laugh.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. All the runs that the Yankees have scored are on home runs.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like none of them have like really been all that cheapo. Like they've pretty much all just been like easy cookies. Like if you're watching on the thing, like that pitch number 7, that's a home. Anybody can hit that home run. Like that's easy. But no, I think the thing is like you have to kind of give Carson a run, but I do agree. I think like very very likely that Kim like opts in. So I think that does give you your opening day shortstop to start it off, but then
Or second baseman if you have Walls back.
you also have the potential of like, yeah, do you trade Brandon Lau this offseason? Do you keep him? Do you trade I think Kim like mid-season, or do you just call up Carson Williams and then have Kim too? Like I think there's a lot of options you can do with that, but I do see Kim opting in, and I agree with you. I don't see Carson starting the year in or starting the year on the squad, but that's why I'd like to see him get a little taste of the show, see how he does, kind of get that like those feet wet, and then kind of go from there.
Yeah.
And then he's still your best prospect position wise,
Right.
and the most likely to be like a major league contributor because you have the glove, and it's like with some pop. Like it's like, would you take basically Taylor Walls with homers?
Yeah.
Right.
Also,
You're not asking for Wander Franco. You're asking for like Taylor Walls
right.
with maybe a little bit better juice.
Also, let you know a little secret here. Prospect rankings, they don't matter.
They don't.
Like once you're in the big leagues, your performance will speak for itself. So I think you can be a little like looking at Carson's sliding down the rankings. If you've been watching him, if you've been following him, like his summer has been really good. He just hit another home run. Was it last night or tonight? They're on the road right now.
Tonight. I think he did one
Um,
last night too. Actually, it's kind
he's
of
on
hard. It's like
fire.
I'm trying to look and it's like,
He,
yeah,
he's on fire. I saw him hit one last week when I was there at a game. Like he is crushing the baseball. So you can watch that and think, okay, like there's still a lot to believe in Carson Williams. Again, I think fans will need to be patient, and it's why
Mhm.
in Austin Wells just homered another meatball,
Oh, look at that
just
pitch. My gosh.
middle slider,
That's what?
Fairbanks.
That's like one, two, three, four. Is that 5 home runs tonight?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there was three uncompetitive. It was a first pitch fastball he fouled off, then three uncompetitive pitches, and then a middle slider.
So that's two. Yeah, because that's yeah. No, that's five. That's 5 home runs. So that's
Wow,
two from Rasmussen, one from Jax, two from Fairbanks. Man, it's a lot of home runs. That's 5 tonight,
oh
9
yeah,
yesterday.
too. Grisham should
Four,
we should let Grisham hit his third right now. I might as
that's
well.
14 home runs in 2 games. That is that like a record? It's got to be a record.
Got
Surely.
it. Yeah. Where were we?
Like,
Carson Williams. I think fans need to be patient. You know,
yeah.
the bat. It's going to take some time. I think there's flexibility in how you want to look at the middle infield. I think they might also look at outside help, free agency trades, find another depth piece, especially if you do trade a Brandon Lau.
Hmm.
You probably have Richie Palacios back, but he is like a second baseman slash outfielder, and he hasn't played this year, so we just don't know what the Rays feel about his defensive positioning. So yeah, Williams. There's no one else like other than Williams that can come up like Tanner Murray. I mean, maybe he shows up at some point next year. He's had a rough season in AAA, but he's 25 or 26 now. Like it's kind of now or never. It feels like for him. Um, there's no one else. Like Jalen Battles is down there. You've obviously got like Coco Montez and Jamie Westbrook. That's just filler in the
Hmm.
organization. Um, yeah. By the way, Coco Montez, I think we knew this, but he's not even on the 40 man. So if they call him up,
You
that
would have
could
had
happen.
to go out of the yeah. Oh, that's
There's
right.
a couple more
He did get
interesting
DFA'd at
pieces
one
in
point.
Double A that I guess if they make big strides next year in Triple A, they could provide some more
Hmm.
depth. You're looking at I don't know the group of like Cooper Kinney, Braden Taylor, who's had a disappointing season, but also Jadier Rynamo, Gregory Barrios, who you got in the Savali trade, Colton Ledbetter as he's an outfielder. Like I don't know if they get called up to AAA next year and they make big strides, maybe there's a path for them. But you also might need some outside help. Um, let's talk about Trey Morgan.
Hmm.
Again, first base slash corner outfield, probably more suited for left. Um, a guy I'd like to see this year. I don't know. Just I mean, you could either swap Bob out for Morgan at one point if you wanted to give Morgan some run. You could DFA Christopher Morel and give Morgan some run. But another guy that I'm curious. I don't know if it'll work. I don't know if the profile works, but I want to see it. And now that
Me
it
too.
feels like we're out of it, like let's see it. Like let's not
Yeah.
play any of these scrubs anymore. let's
Well, I do think this is like the kind of the part of the season, right? Like when you're like down, like you're 6, 7 games under 500, like you don't need to like play like Jake Mangum, right? Like you don't need to play like Tristan Gray. Like those are wasted at bats, right? Like I think like maybe you can be like, okay, Jake Mangum could be like a fourth outfielder type, but I think he's already kind of proved like what that can be. I don't think like I think when you see like it is also kind of to this point that's kind of rough, right? Because it's like what is the team trying to do? Like you're so far out of it, and you're so like uncompetitive in games. Like why isn't like Christopher Morel not playing, and then Jake Mangum playing like every day? is such a weird setup because it's like we know what Jake Mangum brings, which is really bad offense and okay defense. Like I kind of you kind of just like you have that set in like pretty solid fourth outfield type, like off the bench, like the pinch hitter makes a lot of contact, can like is very fast too, can defend like all three outfield positions. That's a solid fourth outfield like setup. You've sort of have that. So like I do think this is like kind of the time like you are running out of like don't waste your like 40 or so days that you have left where like you can't really even like getting hot, like even if that happened, like you can't get anywhere close to the postseason at this point. Like no, like this is just far too far out. You just have to be able to like give some tape to next year. Like don't waste this opportunity to see like what you have because you don't want to go into next year with like spring training battles. Like we've seen that. Like like Curtis Mead lit up spring training. He can't hit in the majors. Like he just can't do it. Like also by the way, like for everybody see how he's doing in Chicago. He's got a 79 WRC plus. His slug is at 270. He has 10 singles in 40 plate appearances and 0 extra base hits. Right? Like so like he can't hit in the majors. Like he just can't do it. Like it would be nice if he could, but he couldn't. Like he can hit in AAA and he can hit in spring. So you don't want to see like if Trey Morgan or Carson Williams goes crazy in the spring, that makes it interesting to see if they can make the team, but you don't know if they can actually play.
Yeah.
So I think this is your opportunity. Like you're not going to necessarily know if they can play in the show right now, but you at least have to give them a shot. Like I do think this like give you something, and this is where I think last year that team was more interesting post deadline. Is you got to see guys like Junior Caminero, you got to see like Jonathan Aranda get some run,
Right.
and that really paid big dividends to this year.
Yeah. Do I need to see any more Jake Mangum this season?
No.
Do I need to see? I definitely don't need to see any more Tristan Gray. I don't feel like I need to see any more Christopher Morel. I want more plate appearances for Everson Pereira.
Yeah, absolutely.
More plate appearances for like we talked about Bob Seymour, but yeah, let's get Trey Morgan and
Carson
and Carson up, because also like Ryan Bass posted like a really long injury update, and like the update was no one's really close, and we don't really know when they're going to come back. Like there's no update on DeLuca, no update on Taylor Walls. In I don't know. It feels like they're kind of slow playing it and kind of going through the motions right now, including tonight's game. Man, what a devastating loss. I mean, you were like a foot away from Hunter Fiducia walking it off.
Yeah, almost stole one.
That felt like the type of moment you needed to not only like get the win and which are essential right now in the standings, but also try to spark something in this team.
Right.
Instead, your closer goes out and gives up
just bombs, just cookies, easy.
There was a disengagement violation. So I don't know. Maybe we're just giving up.
Because that was the third pickoff attempt.
Okay.
3 pickoff attempts.
Whatever. Okay. We're going to kind of shift into pitching and talk about maybe some pitching prospects. I got a really up close and personal view of Yoniel Carrette, who's been on the 40-man for a couple of years now, is now in AAA, and maybe knocking on the door of the big leagues. I'll tell you, the Rays have continued to use Carrette as a starting pitcher, and I don't see it as a pitcher. But I think this is or as a starting pitcher. Sorry, did I just say as a pitcher? As a starting pitcher, he's not going to play second base. He's going to pitch.
You're like, I see something in there. I think this is the answer in left field
as a starting pitcher.
Yeah.
Like I watched him pitch, and it was like all sinkers. Like that's just all he threw. And then like maybe he threw like a hard slider that looked like a cutter every once in a while. And that could very well have been like minor league instructions working on this. Like he hasn't thrown a whole lot of innings this year. He was hurt. So I don't know. Maybe there was a game plan there, but it just felt like not the pitch mix of a starting pitcher. The stuff's great. The stuff is great.
Oh, yes.
And it's a lot easier to like turn over a minor league lineup with like one or two pitches than it is. You can't do it with a major league lineup. So he either has like a lot of time to develop and kind of mature with his pitch repertoire, or you just put him in the bullpen and he's nasty in the bullpen. That's a decision the Rays will have to make. But the way he pitched, the way he has been pitching in Durham, is not the type of guy that is ready to be in a big league rotation anytime soon. But I still think we could see him maybe in September out of the bullpen. What about you?
I think bullpen is definitely the way it goes, right? I think like his stuff is great, still pretty young, and you can. I'm always been a big proponent that you can actually. Um, I think I'm a big proponent of like kind of the old Cardinal style, which is like you bring him in as a reliever for a year, and then you can still bring him back the next year, stretching him out, right? You kind of like get major league like batters out, and then you figure out how to do that like two times through the order. You know what I mean? Like you start to extend it out. I'm a big fan of that. Like so Cure like next year or even this year, I'd love to see him come in, kind of get some, inning or two. And but then I really like the idea of like next year he is an option for the pen, not necessarily for the rotation, and then you can move him back. Like I don't think that's like I don't think it's like a one-way ticket as it used to be. I think in long ways there's like those guys that, once you become a reliever, you can't go back.
Right.
I think there is this option like why not use him as a reliever and then be like, okay, we're going to slowly mix in another pitch which can be devastating as a reliever, and then you in the offseason really get like that third pitch down and then start to stretch him out. We've seen Drew Rasmussen do that. We've seen guys do this. So I think Cure right now can give you some valuable innings. Obviously, this year it's not as like important, but like you do see this as like an option where you go into this. I'd like to see him get again that big league exposure. And when I'm looking down in Durham too, like he's the guy that I'm most interested to see. Like you can maybe give a spot start to like Brian Van Bell, who's made some tweaks. But Cure is the guy that like he could be a opening day bullpen guy next year if you so choose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely could. We'll see. Other guys though that could have an impact that I don't think will play this year. Other than some unforeseen circumstances. Dominic Keegan, he could be. He's probably your third catcher right now. Not on the 40-man roster, so would need to be added there. But and he is Rule 5, so you probably will add him. It gives you three catchers in the
Yeah.
40-man. It would make sense to add him, and then you can easily go into next year with Fiducia, Fortes, and Keegan. I think he could play a role as the team's third catcher. Other players in AAA, I mean, any of the pitchers on the 40-man already, Joe Rock, Brian Van Bell. I don't know enough about him yet. Like I haven't seen
Seems like
him
a good
pitch yet.
option to start in Durham and like be your length
Yeah,
as
he's
needed.
been good in Durham.
Mm-hmm.
Could be on the team. Forrest Whitley, maybe we save a little bit of talk for him for our starting rotation talk, but
Yes.
he has really figured things out, and I kind of almost want to see him like this year. Okay, maybe Forrest Whitley is the guy you see come up this year. Like maybe you move Joel Boyle back down and you DFA, I don't know, Joey Gerber, and you bring up Forrest Whitley to start. That is something I'd like to maybe give a shot at. Evan Reifert, I don't know, in terms of like pitchers in the organization, that's pretty much it. I don't see a whole lot else, even in Double A. There's always pitchers that could develop faster than we're expecting, but
I
I think
think
that's
going
about it for
into
guys that I
next
think can have an
year,
impact next year.
like I think going into next year, there's impact early and there's impact late. So I think impact early when you're looking at rotation guys, right? Because I think there's always a mess for the pen. But I think in the rotation, I think the guys that are in that pile that you have to look at, and that's why you kind of need to get them some like reps this year. Ian Seymour, which we've seen, Joe Boyle, we've seen Forrest Whitley, and I think getting some Forrest Whitley like starts, because we've seen it kind of brought in as like a reliever, and they kind of try to do it on the fly. They got very lucky, and he passed through waivers and was able to stick in Durham, because I think there is some like there were some things to like when he was in here as a reliever,
Yeah.
right? Like there's some things to tweak, and actually his two kind of blowups were both like in like monsoons, so it's kind of like a little unfortunate, but like there's some things to work there. And this was, again, this is back to like the Brewers comment. Like this is another guy that was a former first round pick that's just kind of, lost his luster, but had a lot of injuries. That's a guy that could like easily be very, very talented and be a good starter, or at least a back end guy. He still has a long way to go, but like in Durham, he's been electric. So he is somebody I definitely want to see get some starts this season. And that way you can then like kind of look at next year and be like, maybe he is your fifth starter, right? Like maybe he's the guy that's starting, every 5 games. Maybe he beats out Joe Boyle, or maybe Joe Boyle beats out Boz and Boz shifts to the Ben. Like I think there's a bunch of interesting arms, and like the guys that I'm mostly looking at right now, like we know that like without trades, Rasmussen will be there, Pepio will be there, and Boz will be there. What roles for Boz, we don't know. Shane McClanahan with injury, hopefully injury health, he will be back. Then you got a bunch of guys that are like kind of in this pile that are close, have high like leverage, but still have those warts, right? Joe Boyle, can he do command? Ian Seymour, can he do command? Forrest Whitley, can he do command?
Let's shift to that rotation discussion then, because I'm looking at next year and I'm thinking, man, there might be a couple guys either in AAA or in the bullpen right now that I'd like to swap with a couple of starters that are in the current rotation.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the guys that will be back, like Hauser is a free agent.
Yep.
I don't anticipate a reunion there, but who knows? McClanahan, we don't really know what his status is. We know that he had surgery, he's out for this year, and that the doctors are not. Nobody is positive that whatever is wrong with Shane McClanahan is fixed.
It's a scary thing, because like nerve issues are like not, you kind of like, I don't know, you blow out your arm and it's like, like we put that bone back together. Sprains and nerves, you're like, it will heal eventually, maybe. When? I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll find out.
The Rays, we were talking about how terrible of a loss it is, but they suddenly have the tying run on second base with nobody out after a Tristan Gray double. Bob Seymour RBI.
Tristan Gray. Is that his first hit?
Gray.
Is that his first hit as a Ray
in his life? Oh no.
No, he got a couple hits with Chicago.
I shouldn't be that Tristan Gray is a Durham Bulls legend. Like 3.
He's also a better baseball player than we could ever dream to be.
Yeah. I need to go back to the 3D. I'm switching back between the 2D and the 3D because the score bug on the 3D game day is just terrible. Like it's going to show Tristan Gray. Oh no, but switch to Chandler Simpson.
There you go.
But Shane Boz, really frustrating to watch him kind of get shelled again yesterday. He's had a really frustrating season. Joe Boyle looks like Oakland Joe Boyle. Looked really sharp in AAA, in a league where you can really live on your stuff more than you can in the big leagues.
Yeah,
and
people go out of the zone in AAA.
I'm less sure that he can be a major league starter. So like, I don't know, could you put Shane Boz and Joe Boyle in the bullpen next year, and I don't know, start Ian Seymour and Griffin Jax?
Yeah, I could see that. I could see there's a number of things. Like I think we already talked about Griffin Jax. I think there's a lot of like, I think there's a lot of smoke to the idea that like he could absolutely be a starter with his repertoire. He's been that before. I think Ian Seymour I do like a bit more. I think one of the things, so one of the things that with the Rays rotation, right? That's been like the big disappointment this year is pitching in general, bullpen and like starting. This is actually a pretty good example, this game itself, right? Like you have enough offense to win a game against the Yankees for sure. You just didn't have enough pitching, right? You gave up way too many home runs. You got to keep the ball in the yard. And on the season, the Rays as a team have the worst home run to fly ball ratio at 13.9%. That's worse than Colorado. And like, so you go into next year and you look at this and you're like, you got to get better at pitching, right? The offense, they have, I think the pieces to have a solid offense, they need to make some other bits here work. But like, the pitching needs to be much better. This is the reason why they failed in July. It's the reason why August has been disappointing. Is that the pitching really has not lived up to the hype and the stuff that they have. The biggest issue is like their stuff plus numbers pop, their command plus flop, and so you look at a guy like, oh, I don't know, like Joe Boyle is a pretty good example, right? Like all the stuff in the world, but can you put the pieces together? Can you command the pitches? And can you like get a pitch mix that gets people out? That's a much harder thing to do.
Yeah.
And so you look at Mason Montgomery this year. He was been a huge disappointment in the pen. Again, two of the best individual pitches in all of baseball, but cannot like sequence it, cannot put it together. So I think going into next year, I would love to see a bit of a mix and change, almost maybe in a philosophy in that rotation, like where like maybe a little bit more craftiness. Like Ian Seymour is kind of a good example. Like the stuff numbers, he has good stuff, but like he's more in the Jacob Lopez style, former Ray, or Ryan Yarbrough, or like Zach Littell, some guys that can maybe potentially be a little bit more crafty with him. And then you move back to the to Tropicana Field, to like an actual real major league stadium where you can suppress some of that offense. Maybe you do get a nice mix where you have guys that like suddenly that home run to fly ball ratio regresses back to the mean, and you have maybe some mistakes don't get hit out of the park and they stay on the warning track. But I do want to see like maybe a shakeup in this rotation of, can a guy like Griffin Jax with a lot more sweepers and not just like velo, maybe that's a way to like kind of get a little bit more pitchability
Right.
in this rotation. And I think that's the thing that's been missing. The stuff is there, the pitchability. That's just been really missing. And I think that's something that old Rays teams really had.
And I'd be more excited and more comfortable with, and this could happen in 2026, like experimenting with those last two spots in your rotation. We kind of saw them do that before they fully, I shouldn't say phased out forever, but got rid of using openers and being
Mm-hmm.
more creative. And some of that's been because their guys have stayed healthy the last 2 years. Like other than Shane McClanahan, who's been recovering from surgery, the rest of their guys have stayed healthy. Um, but I'd love to see them kind of be creative with those last two spots. But to do that, you need to have like three guys you can rely on.
Yeah.
And so next year, if that's going to be the case, I mean, you're talking about Rasmussen, who could be expected to go above 150 innings next year. If that's
Mm-hmm.
where, he gets around there this year, you could expect him to go up from that next year, potentially. Um, again, nothing's promised with his arm. Um, you've got Ryan Pepio, who is fine, middle of the rotation. Could, I think, still get better and pitch more like a two, possible. And then the third, I mean, it would be either you bring someone else in that's more established, or it's Shane McClanahan. But even him, even if he's fully healthy, quote unquote, I mean, what are you thinking you're getting from him innings wise? 100,
Sure.
120, 130, which is
You're
fine.
gonna
I'll
have to
take it.
temper that, yeah.
If someone offered me 130 innings from Shane McClanahan next year, like today, I think I say yes. I don't know. I think I would. 130 healthy innings, I think I'd take it. You offer
Yeah,
that to me today. If
totally.
they get that, then maybe you can afford to be a little bit more creative with those other two spots where you're either trying to stretch a Jax out or you're messing around with some other pieces.
And that's
Um,
where they've succeeded with like taking a Zach Littell and
or a
stretching him
Jeffrey
out and
Springs
like,
before him.
or yeah, exactly. And I think those are the ways like you can kind of do that. So I think again, like we look at this and we talked about this, like you look at this team and you look going to next year, like the talent pool, it doesn't have those like lock in, like this is the top, like, you know, number one right-handed pitcher in baseball and the number one left-handed prospect in baseball. And the, you know, the top, you know, outfit, like all the, they don't have that. But what they do have is like a ton of guys who have potential future major league grades. They have a bunch of major leaguers potentially. They have a bunch of pitchers that have the stuff that need to get, you know, fixed. And like again, this is the Rays, right? This is the team that can take guys that have the raw stuff, that have the lightning bolt on their hand and their arm, and like actually harness that into something like valuable. They have all of these pieces that I think you can see like put together to be a good like team. The problem is there's so many outcomes with that. There's so many outcomes with that. Like I think the pitching does have a lot of the potential to be able to do stuff next year. I don't think they're going to be again like a below average pitching team.
Mm-hmm.
The offense, I think they have a little bit more work to do, but I think that also probably might be almost a little easier than harnessing so much stuff and no command. But there's enough pieces that like as dark and as hopeless as it seems, and I know that there's like enough fans that have basically said like the team is terrible, and they've been saying it since like 2022, honestly. So
Yeah.
I will say that like I will say I will just call that out from like I've heard nothing but like basically negativity
Yeah.
since 2022.
You say it
They
every
finally, you're
year.
finally right.
Yeah.
You're fine. Everybody's finally right. So that's good. But like, I'm not giving anybody like a parade here because like you don't get to say like this team has been bad since I don't know, like the postseason. Like, how many people said like this team was completely terrible in what 2022 after that postseason or
I mean, Darby, it's been since
2023?
2018,
True.
and they
Yeah.
were good for 6 straight years. They were projected to finish last place in 2018. They win
They
5
have been
games.
in a transition season
Mm-hmm.
since 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And they've transitioned to the postseason. They transitioned to the World Series. They transitioned to the,
Yeah.
no, it's true. And so I think like, yes, people have been saying like, yes, now I'm right. And I was always right. They just were, they tricked me the last 10 times. But I do think going into next year, like, I think you're going to see a lot of people say like, this is going to be a bad team. I
Mm-hmm.
think you're going to look at the team as it assembled. I think there's so many pieces that like you re-roll the dice of this year, right? You look at like the Pythag record, you look at the third order win percentage, you re-roll this talent like 10 times. How many of those times are they 5 games above 500, 9 games above 500? Like how many of those where you're just like the bullpen doesn't implode for like a whole month? If you're winning in July, is August a little different? Like that's where I look at next year is like you do have some things to work on. You do have some things to change. But I don't think this is a team that's like you are 4 or 5 years away from competitive window because you need 5 top 25 prospects in your
Yeah.
order.
Yeah. You're also at a point where you're not really at a tear it down point because, like you said, the Rays don't do that. They don't tank. They're not really built to tear it down. You could trade guys, older guys, on expiring deals either this offseason or next deadline. You would look at your Diaz, Brandon Lau, and Pete Fairbanks. I don't know. Pete Fairbanks has not looked great. I know the 2 home runs were kind of an anomaly. He hasn't given up home runs this year, but the strikeouts have been down. But you're not you're not trading Caminero or Aranda anytime soon. Those are your 2 core young players. Um, I don't see. No, I don't think. I don't think the Rays are eliminated yet, even though it feels that way. Or only, I think, what is it, 7.5 games out now? I don't know, 8
I
maybe
don't know.
after
Nobody's
today.
really losing in that except for the Mariners lost like a bunch in a row.
Yeah. Um,
They're getting housed by the NL East.
you're not in
I
blow it up territory. I don't know.
no.
You're not, and you asked the question about, roll the dice on the season 10 times. And I don't know. I came into the season optimistic, but what? I roll the dice on Josh Lowe 10 times? Like, what am I going to get?
Mhm.
Are there good Josh Lowe seasons in there? Are these bad seasons tied to injury? I think so, but he's also always hurt. So,
Sure. Yeah.
like, we can blame, oh man, if only he wasn't hurt. But eventually, if you want to win, you need your players healthy. Look at the Cubs. They had Kyle Tucker, the best hitter on the planet, for a few months, and he goes through. They benched him, and there might have been some confidence issues, but comes out today, he's got a fracture in his hand, so
Mhm.
he's been hurt. And guys, they can't perform when they're hurt. Maybe Morel just stinks. Maybe he had one good season before the league figured him out, and
Two.
he stinks. Two good seasons.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I roll the dice on this team again. Like, I don't know what you're getting, but I do still trust the front office's ability to get rid of those players and find better ones.
But also, do you roll like what I'm talking about is you roll this dice, and it's like, do you roll the dice on like the Rays bullpen being the worst ever assembled in Major League
Yeah,
Baseball?
and being back at Tropicana Field.
Like, do you? I mean, or roll the dice that like every pitcher on this team besides Drew Rasmussen is like has like a 5 FIP and is bad. Like, I think those are the parts that are like confusing to me. Like, right? It's like if you come into the season, you're like Jake Mangum and Josh Lowe and Chris Morel suck, and that's why they lost. I'd be like, okay, yeah, but that's not why they're losing. Like those guys getting
You're
better
right.
production, that would be great. Tonight, Tristan Gray and Bob Seymour and Hunter Fiducia produced like 4 runs, and Griffin Jacks and Pete Fairbanks gave up 4 runs. That's the difference,
I'm
right?
imagining. I'm
Griffin Jackson,
imagining.
Pete Fairbanks.
I'm imagining us in March or April, like hearing a future podcast clip where you're talking about Hunter Fiducia and Tristan Gray and Bob Seymour providing the offense for the Rays. And I'm imagining what would have gone through your March and April head if you're hearing that. Like, what are you talking? Who are
Tristan Gray is
Tristan
still playing
Gray?
baseball? They didn't get him from like the Kiwoom Heroes? What happened there? No, but that's the thing, right? Like that's what makes this season frustrating, but also like kind of hopeful, right? Like there's like you have answers to a lot of questions that you kind of had to learn this year, right? Like for whatever reason they traded for Chris Morel and they hated him immediately. So I don't know what happened with there, but like you come into this season, it's like you have to do something with Christopher Morel and Josh Lowe. I think after the season, you don't have to do anything with either of them, right? You can like you can totally just just move on. But like you kind of need to know if Josh Lowe is like a good player or not. Like he was a like fantastic player for a season. Then he was kind of hurt and missed some time. Coming into this year, like this is a former first round pick. Like you have to take that shot. Chris Morel was like a guy that was on a lot of prospect lists, had 2 good seasons, had a down year. Like you coming into this year, like if you were like, I'm just dumping those guys, then yeah, you've identified it correctly. But I think you kind of almost need to see them. And which is why we were talking about the prospects, like needing to come up and see it. If we don't see it, then it's like, what's the point? Like you got to try it first. Now you know.
But do you think that they need to change their process? Like, do you think they need to think about what? The answer is yes. Like,
Sure,
you're always evaluating, right? But do you, like, what led us to? And I don't want to hang it up on these guys because again, you talked about it's just the pitching. But what led to us targeting Morel and believing in Josh Lowe, and why were we wrong?
I think that is an important question. And I think that is something that they absolutely have to answer in the front office. Because there's been some moves, honestly, to our credit, like 2024 and 2025, where we have sort of been like, weird. What about this guy are we liking? Like there's some moves this year that like didn't work out, and you're like, I get why you are investing in Mason Montgomery.
And I'd say
right?
that
Like
about
that makes sense, but
the starting pitching swap you did, and I go back and forth, and time will tell. Like this is a weird trade, the Littell trade, and then getting Hauser the next day, and okay, is Hauser better? And Hauser did have a good last start, but Littell has looked sharp. Like he's looked the same he's looked for the last 2 years with the Rays, with Cincinnati. So it's like, okay, at the time when you still believed you could compete for a postseason spot, do you think that the Rays came out better now or later with all the shuffling they did, and then also like swapping Littell for Hauser, but then losing Gervais and Curtis Mead and Soronowski were like the three notable
Mhm.
pieces that you love. The rest were kind of like AAA fodder. Was that worth it to bring in um, Hauser and then Fiducia?
Fiducia.
Those are the only two we got back, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and Van Bell, Brian Van Bell.
Oh yeah, Van Bell. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Um,
forgot the other part of that part. Yeah.
I don't know. You could make the argument to me that like you didn't get better enough to where swapping Littell for Hauser makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can you can keep both. Like, I think you can lose with either of them. You can lose with that, and you can lose the other. I think both get you losses nonetheless if Pete Fairbanks is giving up like 3 home runs.
Right, but
I
that
I,
wasn't
I think
that wasn't their
I
belief
think
then. Their belief wasn't that we were going to keep losing.
their belief was that Adrian Hauser is better in the last 2 months, or I mean, I think their belief is that Hunter Fiducia is a long term
Yes.
answer at
No,
catcher.
that's the
Brian Van Bell is a solid like Durham
but do
piece,
you think that is
and
good trading?
Hauser is basically like Zach Littell over the course of 9 starts.
But do you think that's good? Like, do you think they're right? I mean, the answer is I don't know, but like,
If it works, they're right. If it doesn't, they're not right. Like we're anointing Peter Bendix with Miami because nobody's been able to figure out Hyberto Hernandez yet. Like I think things work until they don't, and then if they don't, like you have to understand like was it bad process or bad results, and I don't know if it's bad process yet. Like I think the Rays have done a lot of success with that process of winning on the margins, improving a bit here and there, and figuring out how to like if you can trade Zach Littell, who's expiring, and you get Adrian Hauser. At the end of the day, what you have is Hauser over Littell, your catcher, and that's basically it, right? Like in the future, you have Simonowski. That could be bad in the future, but that's not something you're going to figure out until like 4 years from now. Like, I don't know. I think these are the things that like the Rays make these moves. The alternative is you just keep the same roster, right? Or you trade the prospects for like a bigger piece. But I think in this situation, it's just such a hard like it's a hard thing to fully say like what does that mean like winning or losing when it's such a marginal like these
right.
are I think the biggest thing is like did they do enough to improve the team,
It's the
which is
two
no.
trades together. I'm okay with the Littell trade, and then the next day it's like, okay, Curtis Mead's probably like just a fringe 40-man guy,
Yeah.
but
Everything
is
they traded for Hauser and the whole Hauser part of this deal is basically nothing.
but it is
Hauser,
that's who you decided to
the
give the ball to every fifth day on a rental.
and I think so far Hauser, like listen, he had a bad first start and he had a really bad first inning against Seattle, and then he went like 5 pretty solid innings.
Yeah,
Like he did kind of pull that
I'm
out. He was great last
I,
start.
I'm
I
not
think the
talking
thing,
about the trade value. It's like, okay, you believe that this team could win, and you got rid of Littell and brought in Hauser, and there was other pieces shuffled around that the Rays might end up, including your starting catcher. Now I shouldn't downplay that, but the two trades together, you could argue to me that it was bad. I don't know, and
I guess I guess in this regard, I think the opportunity cost is the biggest thing I would agree there, which is like using those pieces is at the best you can return.
so
Should you have tried to win this year at all? I guess is the big thing, right? Like I think the Littell trade for Siwanowski and Brian Van Bell is pretty good.
yeah,
It doesn't help you now, it doesn't help you next year, but it's a solid trade. Trading Curtis Mead and the rest of those guys for nothing, for just cash considerations, yeah, probably fine. Probably ultimately fine. Ultimately the same thing, basically. I think what you're looking at is that could they have packaged everything that they moved for better impact this year,
or like a starting pitcher that will be back next year.
or that, yeah. And so like yeah, I don't know. That's I think that's the opportunity cost is the biggest thing. ultimately, like Littell out, like everything altogether ends up being like probably a wash, like a
It's
total
yeah,
wash.
and I think
With Hunter Venusia's here next year, Siranowski and Gervais are in LA for next year.
I'm honing in on these moves because they're very. It can feel like maybe it's boring listening for people. We're an hour and 15 in, so if you're still listening, you're very much into it. Um, it feels like the trades you make when you're a 500 team, and it feels like that stuck in neutral kind of move where like we're gonna move these pieces around and we're just gonna piece it together, and we think it's gonna work, but like it ends up just being like blah. It's not moving the needle in one direction or the other. Uh,
I think the biggest thing is, yeah, I think like the biggest thing is that the Rays didn't trade a lot to improve a lot, and they didn't. So like I think the thing I'm getting at here from what you're saying is that like they should have traded more to get more, or they should have just traded more to get future.
right, and you can make other trades. Like you didn't get Fiducia in the Zach Littell trade. You can keep Littell. I know you use Soronowski, but like surely you could make a Fiducia trade without Soronowski. I think.
Yeah, it trade Gary Gilhill
Yeah,
for Fiducia.
like you like Zach Littell. He's on an expiring deal. Just keep Zach Littell, and maybe still go get Fiducia and make other moves. Or like we're gonna trade Littell, but we're gonna get a guy that's got a year and a half of control left that we can either extend or trade again or bring him back next year.
And I mean, maybe that's going forward. Like they did some trades that were very unraised like as well. Like, you know, trading Taj Bradley for Griffin Jacks, like
Yeah,
going out and getting like big pieces. So maybe there is some differences coming to the front office where they can take more chances, and like instead of trying to diversify a trade package, you trade it for one piece that if they flop and you get nothing, versus like a package of three that like maybe somebody hits in there, but it's lower odds. So we'll be curious to see what the Rays moves are in the offseason when they like if there is potentially the idea of a little bit more money, where does that risk get varied?
yeah, that's important to see. I think we covered a lot tonight. We can rehash some of these discussions in the off season, um, but we we'll get there. This season will end eventually, but I think they're back planning in tomorrow. But that is going to do it for this week's episode of Raise Your Voice. Thank you guys for listening. We've been live on youtube.com/@Raise Your Voice. If you're still watching, make sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on those notifications so you can join us every time we go live. We're also, of course, still available wherever you get your podcasts. If you love what we do here on Raise Your Voice, you want to say thank you, you can become a Patreon member for as little as $1 a month. That's patreon.com/raise your voice. As always, make sure to head on over to draisebay.com to check out all that great race coverage. Once again, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.